The night began with applause, cameras, and violins tuning under crystal lights. Yet the first voice I heard was the one that once broke me. "Why are you here?" I turned, and there he was, Andrew Carter. 16 years older, sharper suit, colder eyes. He looked at me the way a gatekeeper looks at someone who slipped past security. No hello, no recognition of time. Just judgment. He didn't know the truth. He didn't know this wasn't his night. He didn't know his question was about to explode in his face. Because in 15 minutes, under these chandeliers, the spotlight would search the crowd and land on me. But in that moment, I just stood there in the grand hall of St. Albans Academy. Marble staircase, gold banners, the Manhattan skyline glowing beyond the balcony, and I felt my lungs tighten. I wasn't the trembling girl he left behind. I wasn't a secret. I wasn't a shadow. I was here for my son. And my son was about to make history. Andrew stepped closer, voice like polished steel. "You don't belong in the donor section. Seats over there are for guests. Parents of honorees sit in the front." He smirked, "Which means you're lost." I didn't answer. I just let him talk. That was something age had taught me. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Vanessa Hale, his girlfriend, wrapped a manicured hand around his arm. "Grace, this evening is formal. The school has protocols. We can help you find your seat." Her smile was the kind that comes with champagne and condescension. A student volunteer walked up holding a clipboard. "Name, please?" I cleared my throat. "Grace Carter." Andrew laughed softly. "She still uses my last name?" Then to the volunteer, "Mistake, she's not." The volunteer interrupted. "Front row, ma'am, parents' honor row." She handed me a ribbon, gold foil, embossed letters, "Honor guest, parent." Andrew's face dropped half an inch. Not a lot, but enough. I could have walked to my seat. I didn't. I walked past them, slow, calm, spine straight, heel echoing on marble like a gavel. The chandeliers dimmed, the orchestra hushed, the crowd settled. The MC stepped toward the podium. Lights swept the hall in a ribbon of gold. I sat in the front row, where only the parents of winners sit. Andrew stared at me like he was trying to solve an equation where the numbers refused to add up. Vanessa whispered something to him, and his jaw clenched. On the stage, a technician opened a MacBook Pro connected to a massive screen. A presentation slide blinked. International Mathematical Olympiad, gold medal announcement. But the name was still hidden under a black bar. The school had kept the identity secret to protect the winner from online harassment. One of the finalists had been targeted before. So no one in this hall, except the staff, knew who the gold medalist was. Not Andrew, not Vanessa, not the reporters, not the donors, and certainly not the man who asked me why I was here. Beside the stage's curtain, I saw a familiar figure in a navy suit, hands in his pockets, toe-tapping lightly the way he always did when he was nervous. Lucas, my son. 15 years old, quiet, brilliant. The only person in this school who solved the final problem under the 4-minute mark. The boy I raised alone, through winter shifts, library couches, cheap notebooks, and nights he fell asleep beside my feet while I graded papers. Andrew followed my gaze, his head tilted. "Who is that boy?" He asked it like a challenge, not a question. I smiled. For the first time, just a small, steady smile. "You'll find out." The orchestra paused, lights narrowed, the MC lifted the final card. "Ladies and gentlemen," the entire hall went silent. "Please stand and cheer for our International Mathematical Olympiad gold medalist." A breathless heartbeat. The screen flickered. The black bar dissolved. Lucas Carter. The hall exploded. Applause, shouts, students screaming his name from the balcony. Teachers stood. Cameras flashed. The crowd rose like a wave, and Andrew froze. His son, his blood, his last name. The boy he abandoned without looking back. And I, sitting in the front row, watched the truth land on him like thunder. Before Andrew could move, a school administrator leaned into his ear and said something that drained the color from his face. If someone told me 16 years ago that I would sit in a hall of marble and chandeliers while the man who abandoned me watched our son take a bow, I would have laughed. Back then, life didn't glitter. It flickered. When the applause finally settled, Lucas stepped toward the microphone. His voice was soft, but steady. "Thank you," he said, "for believing that a kid who almost failed sophomore geometry could get here." The crowd laughed warmly. They saw confidence. I saw courage. Because the truth was, Lucas didn't fail geometry. He quit trying, after his father's last message. 6 years ago, Lucas had asked me the question that sliced deeper than any breakup could. Mom, why doesn't he want to see me? And I, afraid of turning a boy into an open wound, lied. He's busy. He'll call. He'll come someday. But someday never knocked. So Lucas learned instead. He learned to hide hurt behind logic, behind perfect scores, behind the idea that if he proved his value with numbers, then maybe someone would finally see him. Tonight, the world saw him. Andrew saw a problem. He leaned toward me, voice low. You've been poisoning him against me. I turned slowly. His tie was perfect, his voice was steady, but his eyes trembled, the same way they did when responsibility tried to sit beside him. I told him nothing, I whispered. Your silence did the talking. Lucas finished his short speech. Cameras flashed, a chandelier sparkled overhead, and something inside Andrew snapped. Quietly, invisibly, but clean. He stood up, suddenly determined to walk toward the stage as if a decade and a half of absence could be erased in 30 footsteps. But before he could move, Principal Alvarez stepped directly in front of him. Mr. Carter, the principal said politely, please remain seated. We have a process. Andrew tried to smile like a donor does when someone tells them no. I'm his father. The principal didn't flinch. You're not on the attendance authorization. The student requested only one parent for tonight. His mother. A hush moved across the first 3 rows. Andrew stiffened. That's ridiculous. He's a child. Actually, Alvarez replied, he's 15, old enough to choose who stands with him. The truth didn't punch Andrew. It erased him. He sank back into his seat, as if the leather suddenly burned. The ceremony continued. Student achievements, scholarships, future university plans. I watched Lucas from the front row, knowing every sleepless night, every underpaid shift, every library floor nap had led to this stage. After the ceremony, students flooded the lobby, silver dresses and navy suits, sparkling shoes on polished stone. Lucas walked toward me through the crowd. The gold medal caught the chandelier like a tiny sun. Mom, he said quietly, is it okay if we go home soon? He never liked big celebrations. Genius rarely needs noise. Of course, I answered. Just a few photos? He nodded, and for a moment we were alone in a room full of cameras, just a mother and a boy who built himself out of broken pieces. But peace doesn't last long when someone feels entitled to a story they didn't earn. Andrew appeared behind him. Lucas, he said softly, we should talk. Lucas turned. No anger, no fear, just distance, clean, polite, final. What do you want to talk about? He asked. That's not how you talk to your father. Lucas blinked. Are you my father? The room stopped breathing. Andrew swallowed, his voice dropped. Of course I am. Lucas tilted his head. Calm. Sorting a variable. You never came to my birthdays, you never sent a card, you never called, you never answered, you didn't come when I was in the hospital, you didn't come when I made the national team, you didn't come today, you came for cameras. Someone gasped, not loud, but enough. Andrew looked around, realizing too many ears were listening. Lucas, I made mistakes. I want to fix things. Lucas shook his head. You want a photo? Not a family. The boy who never learned to cry learned how to draw a boundary. Andrew stepped closer, voice shaking. I'm trying. Then try somewhere else, Lucas said. I don't need someone who shows up only after I win. I didn't teach him that line. Life did. Andrew's breath hitched, and in that moment, everyone saw it. The boy wasn't cruel. The man simply wasn't a father. A teacher called the winners for final shots. Lucas walked away, metal glinting. I followed him, but before I reached the door, I heard Andrew say one sentence that told me the past wasn't finished. If she turned my son against me, I'll take this to court. But what he didn't know, what made my pulse pound, was that I had kept every email, every message, every legal document. And tonight would be the last time he ever threatened us. When we stepped outside, a man in a charcoal suit approached me quietly and said, Miss Carter, I believe we need to talk about Mr. Carter's recent actions. The man in the charcoal suit held out a business card, edges crisp, name embossed in silver. Thomas Dwyer, attorney at law. I knew the name. Years ago, when Lucas was still small enough to fall asleep with his head on my shoulder, Dwyer was the one who helped me fight for a protective order after Andrew tried to force his way into our apartment at midnight, drunk, demanding money. We won the case, barely. And then he disappeared from our lives like a guardrail taken down after the road straightened. Apparently, the road was curving again. Miss Carter? He he said quietly. "I've been monitoring some activity involving Mr. Carter. There are attempts to interfere with school protocol, media narratives, and tonight, custodial misrepresentation." My heart sank. He said he'd take me to court. Dwyer nodded once. "If he files a petition claiming parental alienation, his lawyer will demand proof that you didn't restrict contact." My stomach tightened. "I kept everything." "Good," he said, "because I need to see it." I glanced toward Lucas, who was taking last photos with the math team. His smile was small but real, tired, relieved. I didn't want him to see any of this. Not tonight. Not after he fought so hard to earn joy. "Can we talk tomorrow?" Dwyer lowered his voice. "That's the problem. Andrew already contacted the school's board. He claims you forged the honor row ribbon to create a scene, and that you're involving the school in a personal dispute." My pulse went ice cold. Andrew wasn't trying to be a father. He was trying to erase me. Dwyer looked at me with the kind of expression lawyers learn after decades. Calm on the surface, storm underneath. "I need your evidence. Every email, every text, every message where he refused visitation, failed payments, or threatened you. The courts don't care about speeches, they care about paper." I reached into my bag and pulled out the old iPhone, screen slightly cracked at the corner. "It's all backed up here." He smiled, tight, approving. "That might save you." Just then I heard footsteps. Hard, angry. Andrew marched toward us, Vanessa trailing behind like a shadow glued to a scandal. "So this is your plan," Andrew hissed. "Use my son to humiliate me? Parade him like a trophy? Make me the villain?" Dwyer stepped between us. "Mr. Carter, this is neither the time nor the place." Andrew ignored him. "Lucas deserves the best. You have nothing, just some cheap apartment and a used Toyota. What can you possibly give him?" I could have shouted, but I didn't. "I gave him a life," I said softly. "A safe one." His jaw clenched. "He needs a father." "He needed a father," I corrected. "Now he needs peace." Andrew scoffed, bitter as old coffee. "We'll see what the court thinks." He spun on his heel and stormed toward the exit, shoving past a teacher. Vanessa stared after him, eyes wide, calculation shattered. For the first time, she looked human, not polished. "I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered. And then, almost ashamed, "I thought he missed his son." "He missed control," I said. She looked at Lucas across the room, metal glinting under the chandelier. "He doesn't deserve him." It wasn't approval. It was confession. Outside, snow had started to fall, thin flakes dissolving on the hood of a sleek black Mercedes S-Class parked at the curb. Andrew yanked open the door, slammed it shut, and the car pulled away, taillights bleeding red across wet pavement. Dwyer exhaled. "He won't let this go." "I know," I said. "Then tomorrow we fight." As Lucas walked toward me, metal reflecting the city lights, I forced a smile. He didn't need to see fear. He didn't need to know that the man who abandoned him was now trying to steal him back on paper. "Ready to go home?" I asked. Lucas nodded. "Can we get burgers? Drive-through or diner?" He gave a tiny grin. "Diner, the one with the jukebox." We walked into the cold mother and son, two shadows against Manhattan's neon. But as we crossed the street toward the parking lot, I caught a figure watching from the corner, a silhouette under a street lamp, phone pressed to his ear. Andrew. He wasn't gone. And worse, he wasn't alone. The man beside Andrew wasn't Vanessa. It was a different suit, a different posture. A lawyer. Tomorrow had already begun. The diner sat on a quiet corner a few blocks from Central Park. Red vinyl booths, a jukebox that skipped if the floor vibrated too hard, and a waitress who called everyone honey, whether you were 6 or 60. The neon sign flickered pink on melting snow, and for a moment it felt like the city softened for us. Lucas slid into the booth, metal tucked inside his jacket so strangers wouldn't stare. He hated attention. Fame was something other people craved. He just wanted normal. I ordered hot chocolate with extra foam for him, black coffee for me. The waitress set down 2 Starbucks logoed straws she kept from her shift earlier. "Use these, the paper ones fall apart." Lucas smiled. Small kindnesses always reached him. "So," I tried, picking at the edge of a napkin. "How does it feel?" He shrugged. "Loud." That was Lucas. Whole worlds folded into single words. "But good loud," he added after a second. "Like, when math clicks." I nodded, the warmth settling into my chest. "You were amazing." He looked up, eyes softer. "You really stayed for all of it. Every meet, every exam, every late night." "I was supposed to," I said. "I'm your mom." That should have been the end of it, But Lucas's voice turned quieter. Did he ever want to be a dad? The question wasn't sharp or angry, just tired. I set my hand on his. He was a different person then. Lucas tilted his head. And now, I thought of the lawyer in the shadows. Of the lawsuit threats. Of the accusation that I forged my place in the front row. Now he wants a story, I said gently, not a relationship. Lucas looked out the window at the passing taxis. If he takes you to court, what happens? I wanted to lie. I wanted to promise nothing would hurt him. But lies are how wounds stay open. If he files a petition, I said, we show the truth. He never called, he never visited, and we have the messages. Lucas exhaled, fogging the glass. Good, good. A 15-year-old shouldn't have to say that about his father. But here we were. The jukebox clicked, skipping mid-song. The waitress laughed, slapped the side of it, and the music jumped back to life. Lucas smiled again, the way he did as a child when broken things fixed themselves. We stayed until the plates were empty, and the world outside turned silver with fresh snow. When we walked out, the cold kissed our cheeks, the city glowing against the night like a promise waiting to be kept. But promises are fragile, because as we stepped under the awning, a camera flash exploded. Lucas flinched. A man lowered his lens, press badge hanging from his coat. Grace Carter? He asked. Is it true the child's father wants full custody? Is it true you blocked him from seeing his son? I stepped back, shielding Lucas. No comment. The reporter pushed forward. We're running a story. Absentee father returns to support his prodigy son. The public deserves. Before he finished, Dwyer's voice cut through the wind. The public deserves the truth. And you don't have it. He handed the reporter a legal notice, cease and desist, printed crisp on firm letterhead. The man's smile faltered. He took a few steps back, mumbling something about deadlines, then vanished into falling snow. Lucas's breathing shook, not loud, not sobbing, just small, tight breaths of someone who's been strong too long. Hey, I murmured, pulling him close. You're safe. But even as I said it, a car rolled to the curb. Black, expensive, tinted windows. The back door opened. Andrew stepped out, not with anger this time, but with something worse, confidence. Behind him, the same lawyer from the sidewalk approached, holding a folder thick with documents. We're filing tonight, Andrew said. First thing in the morning, Grace will receive notice. Lucas deserves a father. I'm done waiting. Lucas stared at him, not scared, not angry, just done. Then why didn't you start 16 years ago? He asked. Andrew didn't even look at him. He looked at me. Because this wasn't about fatherhood, it was about control. The lawyer handed me an envelope, legal print, raised seal. Expect the court summons tomorrow, he said. And then they left, tires hissing across wet asphalt. Lucas took my hand, squeezing hard. We're going to win, right? A question no child should ask. I didn't answer immediately, because winning wasn't guaranteed, but fighting was. Yes, I said finally, because this time we're not alone. We crossed the street toward our car, boots cracking ice. When I unlocked the door, Lucas slid in, but as I closed my door, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have stayed in your place. You won tonight. Tomorrow is mine. I tightened my fingers around the phone. Tomorrow had arrived early. 3 blocks away, unseen by us, Vanessa sat in the back of a taxi, watching Andrew's taillights and whispering into her phone. I think we made a mistake. When morning came, Manhattan pretended nothing had happened. The sidewalks still steamed from delivery trucks, Starbucks cups filled trash bins. The city carried on like every broken family was just background noise. But in our apartment, nothing was normal. A thick yellow envelope waited at the door. Court summons. Emergency custody petition. Lucas found it before I did. He didn't say a word. He just placed it on the kitchen table, poured cereal, and ate in silence, spoon clinking against the bowl like a clock counting down to something neither of us wanted. I sat beside him. We'll fight. I know, he said. Not bravado, just quiet certainty. The kind that comes from surviving more storms than a child should. He grabbed his backpack, metal tucked into a drawer, and headed to school. I waited until he was gone before opening the envelope. Legal language poured out like poison. Unfit parent, emotional manipulation, isolation, alienation, financial instability. None of it true, all of it designed to scare. And it worked. My phone buzzed. Dwyer? Seen the papers? He asked. Yes. Then listen carefully, he said. Andrew's attorney filed an emergency motion. They want a temporary custody order before the full hearing, arguing that you manipulated Lucas into rejecting his father. My chest tightened. He rejected a man who never showed up. I know, Dwyer said, but the court needs a trail. We need every missed visitation, every unanswered message, screenshots of child support arrears, medical receipts, school forms you signed alone. Can you get them today? Yes. Good, I'll file a counter motion by tonight. Just as we ended the call, someone knocked. I opened the door to a woman holding a small gift bag, Tiffany blue, delicate ribbon. My stomach twisted, expecting trouble. But when she spoke, her voice trembled. I'm Vanessa. She looked nothing like last night's polished shadow. Her makeup was gone, hair loose, exhaustion written in the soft collapse of her shoulders. I shouldn't be here, she said. Andrew doesn't know I came. I didn't invite her in. I just waited. I thought he wanted forgiveness. I thought he missed his son. But when we left the ceremony, he didn't say a single word about Lucas. Just reputation, optics, headlines. Her eyes glassed with a truth she could no longer swallow. He's already planning interviews. He said we needed to rebrand the narrative. Her voice cracked. Grace, he doesn't want to be a father. He wants to win. For the first time I saw fear, not arrogance, behind her eyes. She handed me the Tiffany bag. Inside was a flash drive. What's this? Recordings, she whispered. Calls he made. Messages about the lawsuit. He thinks he can spin judges the way he spins clients. She swallowed. The tapes show he never cared about Lucas, only about beating you. I stared at the drive. Why give this to me? She looked toward the hallway, as if expecting Andrew to materialize. Because I watched your son stand on that stage, and I realized he deserves a mother who protects him, not a man who uses him. Before I could respond, she stepped back. He's coming after you hard. Use it. The elevator doors slid shut, taking her with them. By noon, the apartment floor was covered in documents, old emails, payment records, printed screenshots. The flash drive sat beside my MacBook Air, tiny but powerful, like a grenade disguised as a memory stick. I plugged it in. Vanessa wasn't lying. Audio recordings spilled out. Andrew telling a colleague he would take the kid for a month, get the press shots, then hand him back, laughing about a prodigy makes great PR. Another clip. Grace is nobody. She can't touch me. I forwarded everything to Dwyer. 15 minutes later, he called. This changes everything, he said. We're filing not just a defense, but a petition for full legal custody, no visitation until psychological evaluation. And Grace? Yes. The judge assigned to the case is known for protecting minors aggressively. Andrew just handed us a weapon. For the first time since last night, my lungs expanded. I stood by the window, watching snow fall over the skyline like a clean page being written. But victory never comes without a price. That evening, as Lucas did homework on the couch, headphones on, pencil tapping, my phone lit up again. A blocked number. A voice that carved ice into my spine. You think you're smart? Andrew snarled. You think a few recordings will save you? Judges love fathers who show up with money. And I have all the money. He paused. And I have something else. The way he said it made my blood freeze. You remember that hospital bill from 4 years ago? The one you couldn't pay? I do. I know exactly who covered it. My breath stopped. He laughed. You never wondered how a bill that high just disappeared? My heart slammed against my ribs. Because the truth hit me like a falling ceiling. Someone else had been watching us all along. And whoever paid that hospital bill was about to step out of the shadows. I didn't tell Lucas about the phone call. He worked through calculus problems at the kitchen counter, tapping his pencil in gentle rhythms, humming a tune he used to hum when he was little. The world had tried to make him grow up too fast. I wasn't going to help it. I stepped into the hallway, closed the door, and called Dwyer. He said something about a hospital bill, I whispered. 4 years ago. Someone paid it. Not insurance. Not him. Dwyer went quiet. Let me check the record. While he worked, I sat on the cold floor and leaned against the wall. For a moment, I could hear only the hum of the refrigerator and Lucas's pencil moving like rain on paper. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. The kind mothers memorize in case life tries to take peace away again. When Dwyer called back, his voice had changed. Grace. The payment wasn't from Andrew. My breath stopped. It came from a private foundation account, anonymous. But the routing number matches a trust tied to a firm on Park Avenue. My pulse raced. Who owns it? That's what I'm trying to. A second beep cut him off. Someone else was calling, a number I didn't recognize. Dwyer said, "Answer it." "I'll stay on the line," muted. I switched calls. "Hello?" Silence. Then a woman's voice, steady, older, refined in the way only heartbreak or money can shape a person. "Grace," she said, "it's been a long time." I didn't recognize the voice at first, not until she spoke the second sentence. "You were kind to my son when no one else was." My stomach dropped. "Mrs. Carter?" "Andrew's mother. The woman who once sent me wedding flowers and told me I was the best thing that ever happened to my son. The same woman who never spoke to me again after Andrew left. The same woman who returned my letters unopened and hung up when I called. I heard what Andrew is doing," she said, "and I can't let him destroy that boy." I stood frozen in the hallway, feeling the world tilt. "You paid the bill," I whispered. "I did," she answered. 4 years ago, Lucas needed surgery. You were working 2 jobs and Andrew refused to help. Hospitals don't wait for pride or excuses, so I handled it. I had spent years trying to figure out how that bill vanished. Now I knew. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because I was ashamed," she said quietly. "Ashamed of the son I raised. Ashamed of how I disappeared when he hurt you. I thought staying away would protect you. I was wrong." She inhaled, a brittle, shaky breath. "I'm ready to speak. I'll testify. I'll tell the court exactly who walked away." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. I had imagined allies. I never expected one of them would carry the same last name Andrew tried to use as a weapon. "Thank you," I said. "For Lucas, thank you. He reminds me of my father," she replied softly. "Quiet, brilliant, kind. Andrew got his ego from me. Lucas got the best parts of us that skipped a generation." A soft knock came from the kitchen. Lucas peeked out. "Mom? Did something happen?" I forced a smile. "Everything's fine. Finish your work." He disappeared back inside. Mrs. Carter's voice turned gentle. "Keep him home from school tomorrow. There will be reporters. Andrew is pushing for exposure." "Exposure hurts Lucas more than any lawsuit," I said. "I know. I'm sending a driver to take you someplace safe. And Grace?" "Yes?" "There's something you need to see. Something about Andrew. Something the court will care about." Before I could ask what she meant, the line clicked dead. I returned inside. Lucas was already packing his books. "I'm done. Can we watch something? Something dumb?" We settled on the couch. A sitcom rerun flickered, while snow tapped against the windows like tiny fingers asking to come in. Lucas rested his head on my shoulder. For 10 precious minutes, nothing hurt. Nothing chased us. When he fell asleep, I carried him to bed, tucked the blanket around him, and kissed his forehead the way I'd done since the day he was born. As I turned off the light, a pair of headlights swept across our window. A black sedan. Not Andrew's. This one had a small flag mounted on the hood. Sleek, official, unmistakable. Someone stepped out of the back seat, holding a leather folder and walking toward our building with purpose. I checked the hallway camera on my phone. The visitor looked up, directly into the lens, as if she knew I was watching. Andrew's mother had not sent a driver. Someone else had come. The hallway camera showed a woman in a long black coat, snow collecting on her shoulders, gloved hand holding a leather folder, embossed with a crest I didn't recognize. She pressed the buzzer only once, as if she already knew I would open the door. Lucas slept soundlessly down the hall. I stepped outside, closing the apartment door behind me. The woman smiled with a kind of quiet authority. "Grace Carter?" "Yes. I'm Margaret Linton. I represent the Child Welfare Advocacy Council." Her ID was clipped inside the folder. Official, state-issued, real. "We've been alerted to a potential custody dispute involving a minor who has recently become the subject of public interest." My throat tightened. Andrew had moved faster than we thought. "This is routine," she continued calmly. "Where there is media attention and a sudden custody petition, we check for coercion or negligence. We interview both parties. We observe the minor's environment. We protect the child's stability." My mind raced. "Andrew filed a report?" "He alleges emotional alienation and an unsafe household. That triggered a standard review. I need to see the home briefly and speak with you." I forced my voice steady. "My son is asleep." "That's fine," she said. "I only need to see where he stays, that he has his own space, and that there is no risk to his well-being." For a moment I saw the trap. If I refused, Andrew would claim I was hiding something. If I allowed her in, she might see our small apartment, The cheap furniture, the secondhand couches, and he would use that too. But I also knew something Andrew never understood. Truth works, even when life is humble. I opened the door. Inside, everything was quiet and warm. Lucas's coat hung on a wooden peg, his math book stacked neatly on the table, his sneakers left by the rug. The woman walked slowly through the living room, taking in details the way a trained eye does, looking for safety, not luxury. She paused at the shelf by the window, Lucas's awards, his certificates, a faded photo of him holding a science fair ribbon. Then she studied the fridge, covered in magnets, homework schedules, a drawing of us eating ice cream, crooked but bright. "You keep a clean home," she said gently. "Orderly, predictable, that matters for a child." She stopped at Lucas's bedroom door. I opened it carefully. He slept curled under a navy blanket, lamp still glowing with the warm amber light he liked. She stepped back, closing the door softly. "You're doing well," she whispered. "Better than most. But Mr. Carter has resources. He can paint a convincing picture. I'm gonna need documentation. Medical, academic, financial, anything that shows you've been the sole caregiver." "I have everything," she nodded. "Then you have nothing to fear." I wanted to believe her. I wanted her words to be a shield. But fear doesn't disappear just because someone tells it to. She handed me a card. "I'll schedule a formal interview tomorrow. One last thing. If anyone threatens you or approaches your son, you contact me directly. I've already flagged the case for media boundaries. The child is not to be photographed or interviewed." When she left, I leaned my forehead against the door and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. In the morning, I printed every document I owned: medical bills, school forms, tutoring receipts, photos of birthday cakes, report cards signed with my handwriting alone. I packed them into a folder and took Lucas to a quiet coffee shop near the Hudson. A small place with soft music and wooden tables that smelled like cinnamon. He worked on a geometry proof, sipping hot chocolate, while I answered emails from Dwyer. For a moment, peace returned. Until Lucas looked up from his notebook, frowning. "Mom, why are they writing about me online?" My heart lurched. I grabbed my phone. Social media posts, anonymous accounts claiming I pushed Lucas to hate his father, that I kept him hidden, that I used him for sympathy. Andrew had begun his smear campaign. Lucas closed his laptop. "Am I in trouble?" "No," I said. "You are the only person in this story who is innocent." He nodded slowly, but his eyes were damp. "Then why does it feel like I did something wrong?" I pulled him into a hug right there, between the tables and the sound of milk being steamed. "You did everything right. Adults make messes. Children shouldn't have to clean them." His voice was small. "I don't want to lose you. You won't, even if I have to fight the whole city." When we stepped outside, snow was falling again. A black car rolled to the curb, window lowering just enough for a voice to speak. "Grace, get in. You need to see something." It wasn't Andrew, it was his mother. And this time, she wasn't alone. The back door of the black car opened, and Mrs. Carter stepped out first. Her hair, silver and elegant, was tied in a low knot. Beside her stood a man in a charcoal suit, tall, composed, carrying a slim briefcase. Not Andrew's lawyer, someone older, someone quieter, someone more dangerous. "Grace," she said gently, "please, we need to talk somewhere private." Lucas glanced at me, waiting for a signal. I squeezed his shoulder. "It's okay. Get in the car." The moment the doors shut, the driver pulled away, snow spraying from the tires. The city blurred past, brownstones, lampposts, the river turning to silver under winter sky. Mrs. Carter kept her eyes on Lucas. "You look like your grandfather," she said softly. "He was a mathematician too." Lucas blinked. He didn't know what to do with words like that. Compliments from strangers always felt heavy. The man beside her finally spoke. "My name is Richard Hale. I represent the Carter Family Trust." Lucas's head snapped up. "Hale?" Mrs. Carter nodded. "Vanessa is my niece, so that was the connection. Why Vanessa tried to manage the scandal, why she broke when she realized the truth. I know what my son is doing," Mrs. Carter continued, "and I know he intends to use wealth and influence to take Lucas away, but he doesn't control everything he thinks he does." Richard opened the briefcase and handed me a folder. Inside were financial statements, trust ledgers, investment logs, all signed by Andrew. I saw the numbers, the transfers, the debts. Andrew wasn't rich, he was drowning. Everything, from his car to his apartment, was rented on credit. Even the foundation he bragged about was leveraged by risky loans. He's filing for full custody, Richard said, not because he wants the boy, but because he believes he can secure a sponsorship deal if he plays the role of devoted father of a prodigy. He needs the publicity, he needs the money. My stomach turned. Lucas sat very still, fingers curled into loose fists. But the court won't listen to financial gossip, I said. They need proof. Richard slid a second document forward. Then use this, a notarized statement. A formal one. Andrew had sold his visiting rights years ago. Signed, dated, recorded. He gave up legal custody in exchange for a financial bailout when one of his companies collapsed. And now he was lying to the court, pretending he was pushed away. Lucas let out one small exhale, like his body had been holding its breath for years. Why are you helping us? I asked. Mrs. Carter looked out the window, eyes bright with regret. Because I raised a selfish man, and I abandoned the woman and child he broke. I can't undo the past, but I can stop him from destroying more. The car slowed in front of a tall limestone building. Columns, brass doors, a lantern burning above the entrance. This is our attorney's office, Richard said. We will file a motion today to intervene in the case, provide evidence, and testify on your behalf. Lucas will be protected. You will be protected. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished wood and winter coats. Lawyers moved like shadows, quiet and efficient. Lucas sat beside me while we signed affidavits, each signature a brick in the wall being built between us and Andrew. When we stepped back outside, the snow had stopped. The air tasted sharp and cold, but clean. Mrs. Carter pulled a small box from her purse, a velvet case. This belonged to my father, she said, placing it gently into Lucas's hands. He won his first math competition with this. Inside was an old silver pen, worn smooth with years. Lucas held it carefully, reverently, like a relic. You don't owe me anything, she said to me softly. I owe you. A car horn echoed from across the street. A reporter stood on the sidewalk with a microphone, camera lights glowing white against the dusk. Grace Carter, he shouted. Is it true the Carter family has turned against Andrew? Flashes burst. Lucas flinched. Richard stepped forward, blocking the cameras. Mrs. Carter wrapped her arm around Lucas's shoulders, guiding him gently toward the car. Before the door closed, she met my eyes. You fought alone for a long time, she whispered. You don't have to anymore. The door shut. The car pulled away, and for the first time in 16 years, I didn't feel like a single mother. I felt like someone finally stood behind us. At home that night, Lucas placed the silver pen on his desk, next to his math notebooks. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. Some gifts speak without words. Just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. A message. A new number. You think my family will save you? They couldn't save me. The judge will rule in my favor. I already made sure of it. I stared at the screen, pulse hammering. Because this wasn't just a threat, it sounded like a promise. I didn't know who he bribed, but I was about to find out. I wanted to believe the text was nothing more than another empty threat, that Andrew was cornered and lashing out. But men like him didn't collapse quietly. They fell with noise, dragging others into the rubble. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse for our preliminary hearing. The lobby was marble and glass, cold enough to make breath visible. Lucas stayed home with Mrs. Carter. Dwyer insisted this wasn't a place for children. We took our seats at the long wooden table. Andrew sat across from us in a tailored charcoal suit, chin lifted, as if the entire system trembled for him. His new lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Marlowe, whispered constantly, sliding documents across the table like daggers. The judge entered. Everyone rose. When he sat, the room held its breath. Case 17302B, Carter versus Carter, the clerk called. Dwyer stood, calm, precise. Your Honor, we submit a motion to dismiss the emergency custody petition filed by Mr. Andrew Carter. We have evidence Mr. Carter relinquished visitation rights years ago in exchange for financial compensation. Marlowe objected instantly, voice crisp. That document is invalid. It was never filed with the court. Dwyer handed the judge a certified copy. It was recorded with the county registrar, signed, notarized, and paid. Mr. Carter received funds from the Carter Family Trust in exchange for forfeiting rights. The judge read the document with slow, deliberate attention. Andrew shifted in his seat, his jaw tightened. Marlowe tried again. Your Honor, my client seeks renewed custody due to emotional manipulation by the mother. She has alienated the child. Dwyer opened his briefcase and laid out what felt like a lifetime. Printed emails, text messages, bank statements, birthday invitations unanswered, medical receipts unpaid, every attempt Grace made to keep the door open. The stack was high, real, heavy. Then he pressed play on the first recording. Andrew's own voice filled the courtroom. I don't need to spend time with the kid. I just need a few photos. A prodigy sells. Someone gasped behind us. Marlowe froze, stunned. Andrew's face turned stone. Dwyer played another. Grace is nothing. Judges love fathers with money. The judge held up a hand. Enough. He leaned forward, eyes sharp. Mr. Carter, do you dispute the authenticity of these recordings? Andrew opened his mouth, but the sound that emerged wasn't a sentence, just fractured noise. Marlowe grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Carter, do you have any statement? I swallowed, standing. My voice was not strong, but it was steady. I never wanted a battle. I just wanted peace. For my son. I never stopped Andrew from seeing him. I begged him. And every time he chose the world instead. The judge nodded once. I see no evidence the mother has alienated the child. I see extensive evidence the father has been absent by choice. Emergency petition is denied. Andrew slammed his palm onto the table. You can't do this. I know people. I've spoken to. The judge's gavel struck hard. Mr. Carter, sit down. This court is not for spectacle. Outside, snow fell heavy, blanketing the courthouse steps in white silence. Reporters waited behind barricades, cameras poised. Dwyer guided me through a side exit. But Andrew wasn't finished. He stormed around the building, coat unbuttoned, breath visible like smoke. You think you won? You think a judge cares about truth? Money talks, it always has. He pulled out his phone and waved it. You know what this is? Messages with the clerk who assigns final judges. I made sure I get someone favorable. Something in his eyes was wrong. Not anger, but desperation, the kind that turns violent. Dwyer stepped between us. Andrew, walk away. Andrew's voice rose. She's nothing. I will take the boy. I will fix my image. I will. The words froze in his throat. A black SUV pulled up to the curb. Doors opened. 2 men in dark coats stepped out, badges visible under their lapels. Andrew Carter? His voice collapsed. Who are you? State Attorney's Office. You are under investigation for attempting to bribe a court official and falsify legal documents. Andrew staggered back, snow crunching under his shoes. This is a mistake. I would never. The agents read him his rights. Marlowe backed away, withdrawing like a tide leaving shore. She didn't defend him. She didn't speak, because there was nothing left to save. One agent lifted Andrew's phone from his hand. We already have the messages. Andrew looked directly at me, eyes wild. You did this. No, I said quietly. You did. They placed cuffs on his wrists. Snowflakes landed on the metal and melted instantly. I turned away. I didn't need to watch him go. As the SUV door closed, a soft realization washed over me. The man who tried to ruin us had built his own cage, word by word, lie by lie, and the world had finally heard the lock click. That night, Lucas slept early, the silver pen resting beside his pillow. The apartment felt warm for the first time in months. No threats, no knocks, no shadows waiting under our windows. I washed dishes, dried them carefully, and set them on the rack. Ordinary life, quiet life, the kind I'd fought for. When the phone rang, I almost didn't answer. But the caller ID said, Carter Family Trust, Legal Affairs. And I knew the story wasn't finished. Not yet. The voice on the other end of the line was the same measured tone from the office earlier that week. Richard Hale. But tonight, there was something softer in it. Grace, I wanted you to hear this before it becomes public. The trust board convened an emergency review after Andrew's arrest. They've decided to revoke his access and freeze all remaining funds under his control. I leaned against the kitchen counter, the quiet of the apartment stretching around me. What does that mean for Lucas? It means he will never be used as a financial tool again, Richard said. And there's more. Andrew's father set aside an educational endowment years ago. Lucas now has full rights to it. I closed my eyes. For so long, every bill, every school form, every late-night worry had lived on my shoulders alone. To hear someone say Lucas's future was secure felt unreal, as if the ground finally stopped shifting. What do I have to do? I whispered. Nothing. It's his by law, Richard answered. But the trust board wants to offer something else, an apology. From the family, from those of us who failed you. I looked around the apartment, small, worn, filled with the smell of laundry and old books. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. It held every scraped knee, every birthday candle, every homework battle. I didn't need money to validate that. I just needed safety. "Thank you," I said. "That's enough." When I hung up, the apartment was silent. The kind of silence that didn't come from fear, but from peace finally taking a seat at the table. Lucas stirred in his room, so I walked in quietly. His lamp was still on, papers spread across the desk, the silver pen resting on top. He looked up, sleepy-eyed. "Is it over?" he asked. "Almost," I said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Your father won't hurt us anymore, and the family trust is making sure your education is safe." He didn't smile. He didn't jump. Instead, he let out a slow breath, the kind you release when the weight finally falls off. "I don't want their money," he murmured. "You don't have to take it," I said. "You just don't have to fear the future anymore." His eyes softened. "Then, okay." He leaned against my shoulder, and I held him until his breathing settled again. In the days that followed, reporters moved on to newer scandals. The snow melted off the sidewalks. Lucas returned to school, quietly, without cameras waiting. Students welcomed him back with high fives and jokes about how he should teach the teacher. For the first time, Lucas didn't shy away. He laughed with them. One evening, we walked across Central Park, the city lights turning the lake into broken gold. Lucas pointed at the skyline. "Do you think people stop being sad because things get better?" he asked. "No," I said. "People stop being sad because they learn they can survive the sadness." He nodded like he understood. At home, life rebuilt itself in small, ordinary bricks. We cooked dinner together. We argued about dishes. We picked movies based on which one had the dumbest plot. Happiness wasn't fireworks. It was Wednesday night mac and cheese. A month later, the judge finalized the ruling. Full custody to me. No visitation rights for Andrew until psychological review and rehabilitation. Steps everyone knew he would never take. When I left the courthouse, snowflakes drifted again, soft as dust. Lucas stood on the steps waiting, backpack slung over his shoulder. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. He saw it in my face. We walked home through Manhattan's winter light, a city full of strangers but not lonely, not anymore. As we reached our building, Lucas spoke without looking up. "Mom, can we stop by the bookstore tomorrow? I want a new math book, something hard." I smiled. "Of course." He glanced at me, suddenly shy. "And maybe something not math too, just a story." We stepped inside, warmth wrapping around us, the door closing out the cold. Life didn't become perfect. It just became possible. And that was enough. Spring came late that year. The snow melted slowly, leaving tiny rivers along the sidewalks, and the city began to smell like wet earth and new beginnings. Lucas and I walked home from the bookstore, 2 paper bags of stories and equations tucked under his arm. At the crosswalk, cherry blossoms shook loose in the wind, petals spinning around us like soft confetti. Lucas reached out, catching one in his palm. "Look," he said. "It's perfect. Not complicated, not painful, just perfect." When we reached the apartment, sunlight spilled across the living room floor. Lucas opened his new books at the table, the silver pen resting beside his notebook. He didn't touch it often. But he kept it close, like a reminder that brilliance didn't come from blood, but from love. I made tea. He worked in silence. And for the first time in a long time, silence didn't feel dangerous. It felt peaceful. Later, we stood by the window, watching the city move, children swinging backpacks, dogs pulling leashes, strangers laughing over coffee, life continuing. "Mom," Lucas whispered, "do you think people can grow from pain?" I smiled. "I think pain is just the soil. Growth is what we choose after." He leaned his head on my shoulder, taller now than he used to be, but still my boy. Outside, the last of the blossoms drifted down. Inside, for the first time, everything felt warm.